It is time for a brand new character, and as you guys can see, they updated this tab. I didn't even know they changed this. No one even mentioned anything. Look, the new stages, items, with everything. Now you can see what they actually did for the changes. Zuko being the newest character, but we're talking about all things Dani Phantom throughout this video, and for this premiere that you guys could talk about in a live chat. And what I'm gonna do is, as usual, put all the ideas for this request. It took a long time just to put this together, and this was a challenge for me. I'm gonna get ready to get into it and explain this new character, and it's almost like a clone in a way. But I'm just gonna get ready to tell the background story, the backstory, things like that. But I like how they design things on the screen so we could be able to see what's new instead of just trying to play this guessing game and try to figure out what's new. The one thing that I noticed that isn't displayed is the new game plus that people don't really know about. Some people still don't know about the new game plus because some people don't play the story. Just for the campaign, and they go straight online when a new character comes out to try to learn new moves, and they just skip out on some of the new content that's added, and they don't explore the things that's new for these patches. But I'm glad that they displayed them now. Hopefully we get some news. We need something. We need a patch for Zuko because he brought in some bugs. Not surprised, but hopefully we get a new patch soon. We get a new update. Maybe some new things could get fixed in the game plus, causing a lot of crashes and triggering freezing. And it's basically unplayable at this point as far as the new game plus, and having to wait for a patch. Who knows when we're gonna probably get one? Maybe we'll get one next week, or maybe the week after in time before May ends. But hopefully they'll come out with something to get excited for, because we need some. We got to find out what's next for the game. But we're going to be talking about Dani Phantom with an I. Dani with an I, just like she would say from one of her quotes. But you guys will find out about that later. We're going to talk about a brand new character for this request. She's not in the game. She's not revealed or anything like that. This is my series where I pick the character. Well, you guys pick the characters that you guys want to see get into the game and become playable fighters for potential DLC. And what I'm going to do is bring up the screen. Let's head to the Go Zone, or just one of these stages. We got a different, wide variety of Dani Phantom stages that are different. Clockwork's Lair, that's new. Pariah's Keep for Pariah Dark, another villain. But this particular character is a clone and the cousin of Dani Phantom. If you guys have heard of her, Dani Phantom, and only she appeared in 2 different episodes only. And after that, basically 2 appearances, and I think she had a background cameo. If I'm not mistaken, she was only in 2 different episodes for this character, this specific character that's a clone. She was in Destabilized, and then she was in another episode. Well, her debut episode was Kindred Spirits, and then she made her return as she vowed to return to Dani Phantom on the screen, as you guys can see, in the Destabilized episode. So we're going to be talking about all things Dani Phantom throughout the video, and you guys don't have to watch the full video. If you guys want to check out the ideas and the moves that I came up for her, is going to be in the description as well, with the timestamps for people to be able to pick what you want to listen to and so much more. And if you want to hang out in a live chat, you guys can talk about the character and some other ideal fighters that you guys want to see for this game, because we only have 2 Dani Phantom characters for 2 reps so far. Vlad Plasmius still should have been a playable fighter. He could have been a secret unlockable when you complete the story, because he's one of the main antagonists for this game when you play the campaign. And there's another one, Clockwork, who had a secret agenda of his own for his own plans. But let's get into Dani with an I. Just gonna keep on saying that for this character request. And let me know what you guys think of this character and who else you would like to see from the Dani Phantom series become a playable character. Maybe they probably won't add any more Dani Phantom characters. Maybe we'll probably see them in the next game, another Nickelodeon title. Maybe potentially later this year. But let's just start talking about Dani and she and her story and who she is and stuff like that. Danielle Fenton, aka Dani, she's half ghost and half human, and she's a clone, just like I mentioned before. She's a clone basically of Dani Phantom and a cousin of Dani. And she was created by Vlad Plasmius as a clone with a mission to capture Dani Phantom and to hunt him down, so that Vlad Plasmius could take his final morph, or basically his DNA samples, to make the perfect clone of Dani Phantom. And this is kind of a weird episode and a crazy story that I'm about to get ready to tell you guys. Some people, if you've seen this episode, it's almost one of the darker episodes of what, just because of the story and her purpose and what Vlad Plasmius was trying to do to Dani Phantom. So Vlad Plasmius, with his original plan, basically he was trying to steal the DNA to make the perfect clone, because he wanted Dani Phantom to be a part of his family. Let me get into that, just a little bit more into that. But going back to Dani, she's basically a female version of Dani Phantom, who's a surviving clone of his, who eventually, if you watch the episode of Kindred Spirits, she eventually helped Dani Phantom, or Dani, right, you guys can see on the screen, fight off his clones and destroy Vlad Plasmius' plans. Now, Vlad Plasmius' plan, when you go and watch the show, and when this particular episode, you can look it up, Kindred Spirits, if you guys want to. His original plan was to have a family, and he thought that he could achieve this goal by creating the perfect clone of Dani Phantom. Pretty crazy, right? And with this perfect clone, he would be able to finally have Dani Phantom a part of the family. And the bad thing is, which is really messed up about this whole story, Vlad Plasmius didn't even initially care about Dani, because he created her as a clone of Dani, just kind of a minion, just basically for his mission, just to do his dirty work, basically. Vlad Plasmius didn't even care about her and her fate. And his secret plan was trying to use her only to destroy her secretly in the long run, just so he can get this clone for Dani Phantom. But once she found out the truth and Vlad Plasmius' true colors and true intentions to use Dani against Dani Phantom, to hunt him down and steal his DNA from his true intentions for his mission, she decided to join Dani Phantom eventually and join forces. And then basically Dani would later become her own ghost fighting superhero herself to protect others from ghosts. Now, just when I was watching the episodes and seeing her return and things like that, just with these between characters, Ember was nowhere to be found in this episode because it had nothing to do with her, of course. But this whole objective of what his plan was his intentions, pretty messed up. You created this clone that you made seem, it was as if Vlad Plasmius tricked her to make her think that she actually cared about her and was going to show her that love and support as a family member, to be a part of his family. But he didn't care anything about her whatsoever. He was going to destroy her, basically, because for the sole purpose of, that's how desperate he was and how badly he wanted Dani Phantom to be a part of his family. He was doing all this research. He even tried to do research on Amity Phantom, if you can believe it. Pretty crazy when you just listening to this story. He did all this research on Amity Phantom, and even trying so hard to try to take and make the clone, the perfect copy of Dani Phantom to be a part of his family. He went as far as creating all these crazy looking clones. Dani, the character that y'all getting to know today, is the only difference, or the main clone that really could see past Vlad Plasmius' plans and seemed to be almost a completed version of Dani Phantom, but a different side of him, a different part of him, to basically encounter him, and basically almost had the similar interests. She had the similar interest of wanting to be an astronaut like Dani Phantom, because that was his dream. Dani Phantom wanted to be an astronaut, and with the crazy part is, when you go and watch this, she had the similar taste, the similar interest as Dani Phantom with this clone that I'm talking about for this character, Dani with an I. She basically had the similar interest and the similar taste as Dani Phantom. Vlad Plasmius had a perfect clone of Dani Phantom, but it wasn't him. It was a completely different version of him. it's just so sad just even talking about it. He was just gonna basically destroy her and kill her off just because of his sole purpose of wanting Dani Phantom so badly to be a part of his family. But that's the story. And I want to say this too before we start getting into the other ideas for how I think she could play, things like that. She's strong. And she was giving Dani Phantom that work. She was definitely putting on some fights, and she couldn't control her powers like Dani Phantom could. She was being affected, and she had this limited existence, and every time she would probably use her powers, it would drain her. Every time she would use her ghost powers, she could do the same things that Dani Phantom could do. She knew almost the same. She had similar abilities as he did, but the difference is she didn't have that control. She didn't have that potential. So that's why she was having so much trouble trying to use her powers and to tap into her potential. It took some time, but when you go and watch this episodes and see her in action, you will be able to take a look and see the effects. It drains her physically, and it causes her to pass out and just suffer. So this character just has such a crazy, unique story, and it was so much fun working on this and being able to put all this together for you guys today, and also for this particular request. So it's fun just putting these new characters together because you guys get to find out about some new faces, people that you haven't even seen, and characters that you guys haven't even seen before for this series. It's just fun. But that's the whole story, and I almost left out one more thing that I want to mention. She wasn't the only clone, but the other clones of Dani Phantom were just evil and really just trying to seek out and complete Vlad Plasmius' mission to try to hunt Dani Phantom down, but they could not stop him. She was the only one that could. She was able to stop him, capture him, and she also had a little bit of help from Valerie as well, because Valerie is going to help carry out the plans of Vlad Plasmius, but Dani was able to be able to befriend Valerie and have this bond and connection, and to the point where she ended up going back on her objective and her mission of helping Vlad Plasmius, and ended up joining forces with Dani, both of the Danis in this show, to put a thwart in his plan. So that's the whole story and the backstory of this character, and I just love starting with this instead of just going straight into the moves. I like talking about the character so people can get to know this character and find out what he or she is about and what their origins are. Their origins for as far as where they come from and how did they come about to get to this point and for who they are. So that's the backstory. Now we're going to start talking about the stages that I came up with for her. Now, it won't even let me go back. Oh, there it is. I took the sound off. I think that's what threw me off. I took the sound effects off in the options, so I didn't know if I was going back. So let's move on to the stages. We got Clockwork's Lair. We got Pariah Dark's Keep. Two different stages that didn't exist from the first game. Now, if you played the first game, we had Ghost Zone, which was the perfect Dani Phantom stage. Maybe that can make a return. See how they changed these stages? The stage layout and the UI, the user interface, is completely different. It's not a competitive stage. See, it's not even included for some of these platforms, single platforms. These could work. See, it's in here for a flat surface, but it's not going to pop up in these other categories. But you see, it's only two stages. So I just threw in this. I didn't put it in my little idea. Maybe they could bring back the Ghost Zone for Dani, but I picked Amity Park because I think this would make the most sense, because sometimes when you go and watch the show, the fights and the encounters with the ghosts take place here, and it actually took place when Dani had an encounter with Dani Phantom, and trying to run into him and shoot him down and use her ghost powers to knock him out so she can be able to carry out Vlad Plasmius' plan to take his DNA to make the perfect clone. So the fights took place in Amity Park. They weren't even in the Ghost Zone. And then the other ideal place I slipped in, Vlad Masters or Vlad Plasmius is mentioned, but he's originally, before he's Vlad Plasmius, before he transforms or goes ghost and transforms to morph into Vlad Plasmius, he's originally known as Vlad Masters. So I put Vlad Masters Mansion because the fights took place inside of that location as well. So I put those two as additional stages to be able to join, to come out with her as a DLC pack if the developers would ever to consider adding her. I wanted to put those ideal stages, but I'm gonna still slip in Ghost on can make a new return, basically, because like Clockwork's Lair looks good, and we got Pariahs to keep. It's another good stage, but we only have 2 stages because Dani Phantom and Ember, they're the only 2 characters that's playable fighters from his series. Maybe they will probably bring back the Ghost on. We need more stages. I think we definitely deserve more stages with some of these characters. And what if they do a second wave? Hopefully we get more stages included instead of just having the costumes. Because we need more stages to play on. We should have had the Krusty Krab. Could have had a new Fire Nation stage, Fire Nation Capital for Zuko, since they're the 2 new DLC characters. We need more characters. We need more stages to be included with them. Instead of just getting the costumes, the more the better. So we're not playing on the same stages over and over and over. Now we're gonna move on to the costumes. I think this gave me almost a little bit most of the trouble, outside of just coming up with ideas of how she could play. I think that was the most challenging thing for me, coming up with moves, because she's basically a clone of Dani Phantom. She has the same abilities, as she could do the same thing as Dani Phantom. Let's just look at the costumes. So some costume ideas or alternate costumes. I selected Human Dani because she wears a red beanie. When she first meets Dani Phantom, she wears a red beanie and shorts. Red beanie, red shorts, blue hoodie, and blue shoes. So one thing I took from this and noticed, outside of the mind control skins, I don't want to just put those in, because every character that come out and release is going to have 2 different mind control skins from the campaign, exclusively unlocked from the campaign, from the story. So one thing I did, this is the closest thing, before he became a ghost, before he got this outfit, when he had his ghost powers, he had this suit on originally. This is the closest thing that I could think of for Human Dani Phantom that's in this game right now. But I went with Human Dani because I noticed that they don't include something like that. So maybe that could be something that could probably have her be playable in her human form. Because guess what? That Human Jenny is not even a costume. So they could probably go above and beyond and add a human version of Dani, which I think would be awesome. Will be awesome. Now, we got Evil Dani Phantom already on the screen. Now Dani, don't forget with an eye. Evil Dani, she's going to have bright red eyes. And I wanted to do something similar to this. But bright red shiny eyes, so she could have her own version of her evil self. And then some other things that I wanted to do. I couldn't come up with any other costume for her because all this stuff already exists for Dani Phantom, and she didn't really go through the same things as Dani Phantom went through because she was only in 2 different episodes and she had a background cameo appearance. That was the only time. Other than that, she never, ever, ever, ever returned. She just stopped showing up, and then once the show got canceled, that was it. So I think these are just the only ideal costumes I could think of, but I wanted to come up with something a little bit more. The hairstyle, custom hairstyle options for Dani exclusively when you purchase the DLC. If they were ever to come out with something like this, maybe something that they have. Some of these characters, they don't have anything for different hairstyles. Zuko was the only difference maker because she looks different. I would say Zuko and Korra. Zuko and Korra are the only characters that have different hairstyles. See how her hair is cut low and the ponytail's gone. Who else had a hairstyle difference? She just has different things. I was trying to think. So there was no one else. It was just Korra Zuko, and then Azula has different costumes. But the only two characters I was thinking about Korra and Zuko, because they're the only characters that have different hairstyles when you change the costumes. Only two characters in this roster only have different hairstyles. So I thought, why not do the same thing for Ember? Well, not for Ember, but for Dani Phantom, for Dani, for it to have different hairstyles, because she doesn't have that different style when you go and select her costumes. So I did a custom hairstyles with a ponytail, and I gave her long hair so they could be able to remove her ponytail. None of these characters have that kind of hairstyle with those hairstyle options. They could do that with some of these characters and be able to beef up the customization options instead of just changing the costume. With the wardrobe, you could be able to exchange the hairstyle of some of these characters that get into the game. So that way, it's not the same thing. It's not boring. I'm not saying it's bland, boring. They got some nice costumes in this game. But they need to bring more as far as the costume options, so that way the player can be able to have more to be able to select from. So that's why I ended up coming up with that for additional costumes options. But just like I finished saying, she's not going to have the same costumes as Dani Phantom. Maybe they can probably do something with this, but she didn't exist when at the time when Dani Phantom first got his powers. He met her later on throughout the series, but she didn't have that many appearances. So it made it tough to really try to come up with costume options to try to expand. So I think she'll probably have the least amount of costumes, but I just came up with the customizations with her hair and maybe her face, things like that. Her eyes, change the color of her eyes, make them red. It's just color variations. That's the only thing I can think of outside of that. So the costumes was really tough because it's limited, very limited. She's a limited character as far as that because she didn't have that many appearances throughout the show since the show is done. But now we're gonna move on to the costumes. Well, not the costumes, to the taunts and animations. That's the end of the costumes. Now it's time for the taunts and animations and ideas that I came up with for her. And some of the voice lines, I utilized both those two episodes, Kindred Spirits and Destabilized. The Destabilized episode and the Kindred Spirits and the Destabilized episodes, basically her main episodes and her appearances from the show throughout the entire series. I used those episodes to come up with these voice lines and these quotes. And one of my favorite quotes: "Do you want to ask questions or do you want to kick some butt?" That's what she said to Dani Phantom, when she decided to join forces with him, and even when she decided to rescue him. Right when Vlad was going to finish his plan, she ended up rescuing him and breaking him free, so he wouldn't lose his DNA and he wouldn't steal it and be able to make the perfect clone. It's one of her iconic quotes. Do you want to ask questions? Or do you want to kick some butt? It's dope. Nice little quote for her, and I can visually see that getting added. And then one of her other quotes, as I was saying earlier, it's Dani with an I, just when she introduced herself with to Tucker and Sam, to Dani Phantom's friends, to find out who she was. And then I came up with a unique Dani Phantom interaction when you run into him, and if you run into her in the story when you play as Dani Phantom, because see how some of these characters, all the characters that have a similar or from the similar worlds or similar shows alike, will be able to have unique interactions. So I came up with one, and she actually says this to Dani Phantom when she meets him: "I know who you are, and I came a long way to find you, and I'm not leaving now." That's what she said to Dani Phantom when she finally found him, because she was on the hunt for him, for Vlad Plasmius, but Dani Phantom didn't know her intentions, things like that. He even invited her and allowed her to stay for a while, but Dani Phantom didn't know who her parents were, and she avoided that completely because she didn't want him to find out her true intentions of why she was there. So I think that's going to be the perfect interaction for Dani Phantom. Now, some winning and losing animations to wrap up this section that I came up with. A winning animation, let's put it on this one, something different. See how he moves? See how he spins? That could be something that she could do. But I came up with other stuff. We see on the character selection screens when he moves. Winning animation, she would be able to say this little winning quote. Now that this Phantom is fixed, she's got places to go. So Dani can strike a cool pose she does when morphing. And I got this from the Kindred Spirits episode as a perfect winning animation. And then what's crazy, I pulled this from the first episode from her debut, and then her final appearance. I came up with for her final appearance around Dani Phantom. I came up with a losing animation. So Dani Phantom will melt into a puddle of ectoplasm, and I think it's a perfect tribute to when her powers were weakening from the episode Destabilized, because Black Plasma was about to kill her off, and she was melting. She was completely melting, and Dani Phantom was able to save her and stop her from destabilizing, because she would have been gone forever. Because Dani Phantom thought he failed to even try to rescue. She ended up coming back right out of the ectoplasm from just in time before she get completely wiped out. It was pretty crazy. So you guys got to check out these episodes. Destabilized, that's how I got it from. So I think that'll be the perfect losing animation, instead of just going for that really basic losing animation. I'll just have her cry just like Ember. That could also be something, but I think that'll be a better losing animation for her, because when you defeat her, she'll melt into a puddle of ectoplasm because she's a clone. So I thought this will fit the ideal. This is more ideal for her. When you defeat her in battle, she can melt into a puddle of ectoplasm on the victory screen in the winner's circle when you finish the match. So I really see the developers utilizing that for a perfect losing animation. And I didn't want to just go basic, have her just cry on the ground, just like that, because some of these characters already do that a lot. Jenny and Ember just crying, things like that. I think SpongeBob still does it too, but I forgot. But I wanted to do something more, and see how I did that. I wanted it to pay perfect tribute to the episodes, because she wasn't in any other episode at that time. Any other episode she didn't appear in anything else. So those are the perfect animations for winning and losing animations. Just some reactions to quotes and what she can do, things like that. And I almost left out the taunt here. For her special taunt that I came up with, so Dani will be able to morph into her human form for a short period of time. And I thought this would be cool, because Dani Phantom can't do that. They didn't add that for him, and he's never been given that kind of special ability where she could strike a special pose as a little unique taunt and be able to morph back into her human form. I didn't just want to make it a little costume. I wanted to turn it into a little bit of an animation for a taunt, things like that. And there's some other things that she could possibly say with it. Stop fighting. I know you're too weak to beat me. She said that to Dani Phantom because she was destroying him. Because she knows everything that she knows every move that he does, almost every move. And she's capable of the same things that Dani Phantom can do. So I thought this would be something that she could do. And then something like a little idle charge up. Well, when she's idle, she could be charging when she's standing still for a little bit. Because everybody has idle animations. When she's idle, she could be charging up her ghost energy in her hands. When she has that kind of reaction, that's a unique taunt. But those are the taunts and animations and quotes and, winning and losing animations that I came up with. And now the last part is the moveset. Now, I didn't want to make her too similar to Dani Phantom. She's a clone. Of course she's a clone. And just with these characters. And when they came out with this game, they implemented the movesets. Everybody has different moves and capabilities. Even characters like Patrick, he's a grappler now. He's much more of a grappler in this game, and he has way more different. He has different abilities with his move pool. His move pool is completely different because he has a counter attack. So now you see how the changes they made. So these characters play a lot differently. Aang has a lot more to work with the elements of bending, being able to use earth bending and fire instead of just using only air. As an airbender himself, he has all the elements. So that's what I wanted to really do with Dani Phantom. This was the most Dani was such a challenge with the movesets, because if I could have just made this short and sweet. Well, I'll just make everything, I'll just have everything just be the same. Just copy every single move and then that's it. I wanted to make this a little bit more a challenge. I wanted to make her a challenge and a high risk character, because it'll make her more unique and she'll stand out. And I think I wanted to make her a little bit stronger than Dani Phantom, as something different. But you're going to be running a risk when you play as her. So the goal of making this moveset to finish this request is to make her stand out more than Dani Phantom, even though she's a clone. Because Dani has many of the same ghost powers as Dani Phantom, but can use them differently. So I wanted to do that. That was the goal. Now I want to start with the unique character challenge that I put together. So I gave her a meter. Not all these characters in these fighters have a meter. Ember has one, of course, with her cheer gauge, and then her ratings. April has ratings that can go up. Reptar with his flamethrower, because he can't just shoot fireballs all the time. His meter is going to deplete. Ren and Stippy has one with the gas meter. Mr. Krabs with his money gauge. His money gauge and money meter. Things like that. Money. Things like that. Some of these characters, not every character has a meter. So I wanted to give her one, because Dani Phantom himself doesn't have one. So this is what I call the instability meter. And my whole point with this is to make her a high risk character. Dani is going to be a risky character to pick up due to her instability and limited existence. It's realistic because it pays homage to the show, because she is a limited character and she just doesn't appear anymore in the show. She had 2 episodes, and I wanted to give her that instability because it started to affect her, and every time she would try to use her powers in the show, she would get weaker because she didn't have control of herself. She didn't have control of her ghost powers like Dani Phantom, because he actually had time to perfect his craft with his moves and his powers as the season goes on when you start watching the show. So I thought with this instability meter, while her powers are active and as you use her powers, she's going to later become fatigued and weaker, allowing her to become more vulnerable to damage. And then with this meter, when the instability meter is full, she's going to be stunned and she's going to be fatigued, so you won't be able to move. You can't jump. You can't even try to block and use your shield, things like that. So try to guard yourself. She's going to be wide open, so you're going to be extra careful, and you're going to have to be selective when you use her powers. So she's going to be really challenging. So to break her out of her instability, came up with this little unique feature. Press any action button to really quickly or rapidly to break her out of her instability quickly and to get her back into the fight. And it's a never-ending sort of meter. So it might sound ridiculous. It might sound a little bit challenging, and it's gonna make the players not probably want to pick her up and play her. But she's gonna be stronger than Dani Phantom. She's gonna hit harder than him. So I wanted to do something like that. So while you use these moves for her moves and her ghost powers, she's gonna, each time you try to use something, her instability meter is gonna increase, and you're gonna have to be careful because you're gonna have to break her out of it and get her back into it so she doesn't lose her, it doesn't break her wheel. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. So that's just some kind of unique sort of feature I wanted to give her, because Dani Phantom doesn't have it. So let's just put it on Ember for a little bit. So a different costume. So it's your 2 Dani Phantom characters. But now for the offense, for the moves, I gave her the ghostly wail. Now, something before I just start talking about this. She didn't have this ability, and we will never know if she learned these powers, because even when she returned and destabilized, you cannot see her use this move at all. because she never returned. So I put it and implemented it as her move pool or her moveset as something to really be able to come back stronger than ever, because once she moved on and gone on, she's gone on to become her own superhero and protector against ghosts, her ghost superhero and protector and defender against ghosts. We don't know what else. We don't have any idea of what other powers she contains and what other powers she learned. So I gave her the ghostly will anyway, for starters. And I thought, as a clone, I feel like the developers can give her more firepower than Dani Phantom, just like I mentioned. And this is a move we'll never know that she'll be able to learn, whether or not she learned it or not, because she just never ever came back. Her limited appearance, and she didn't get much time on the air. Since the show is over now, maybe they can make a new series for her. Maybe she can get her own show. But just to describe the ghostly will, Dani can be able to let out a large burst wave that can hit any nearby opponents. And one thing, you guys will probably remember this, something similar to what he used to be able to do in the first game, but he can't do it in this game because they took it out of his move pool. With this move, you're going to be able to charge up to deal more damage, but this will significantly, this will be a risk factor. And every move that I mentioned throughout this, to wrap up this her moves, is going to increase her instability meter, especially the ghostly will, the longer you charge it. High risk, high reward. So, but the ghostly will significantly increase her instability meter, causing her to become weaker. So that high risk, high reward. Now we're going to move on to the next move for a little combo. I gave her a little basic combo with her punches, things like that, so she could be able to hit. Because Dani Phantom doesn't have a combo. He doesn't have a combo. When he's standing still with a light attack, he doesn't combo you with his light attacks. So I wanted to give her something. Power fists, I call these. So Dani can show her strength attacking with her fist with a ghostly 3-hit combo, and then the final blow, if successfully hit or successfully landed, can launch the enemy mid-air with an uppercut, releasing ghost energy. And what Dani Phantom had, he has ice powers, cryo powers as per se, cryokinesis. So I gave her own version of cryo, or just being able to control the power of the ice, ice and cold, things like that. So I call this the cryokinesis blast, and Dani she's going to be able to come with many surprises to the battlefield, being able to control ice and the cold, which was also never displayed in the show. But I still wanted to give her a little bit of some firepower to be able to be a force to be reckoned with. So Dani's going to be able to fire ice particles from her hands horizontally across the screen. See how Dani Phantom has that regular projectile shot? He's like, see ya! I just like when he say that, see ya! When he shoots the projectile across the screen, but he doesn't have something like that. So I wanted to do something else with her cryo, her power to ice and cold, with a cryokinesis blast, so she'll be able to fire ice particles from her hands horizontally across the screen. Her next move, Phantasmal Energy Wave, and this was something that Dani Phantom had from the first game, but was changed and removed. So as a clone for her, being a clone fighter, basically, it's just another version of him, basically, in a nutshell. I wanted to give it more of a bigger range attack. So Dani is going to be able to fire a ghost ray from her hands that goes full screen. And the character I was thinking about was Azula. Because see how Azula has lightning bending? Zuko doesn't have any lightning bending in this game. Azula has lightning bending with her lightning bending attack. It goes full screen and it has massive range. So I wanted to make the Phantasmal Energy Wave something similar to Azula's lightning bending attack in this game, but it's going to be able to go full screen to be able to attack and hit multiple opponents. And the one thing I did differently with this Even though it's going to be similar to Azula's lightning bending attack, the Phantasmal Energy Wave will also be able to pass through other opponents. Will pass through the initial, whoever gets hit first, the initial opponent that takes damage. Everybody else that's behind them or in that range is going to also be able to get hit. So it can hit. It'll be able to hit more than one target on the battlefield with her Phantasmal Energy Wave. And I just that blast that she used when she shot Dani Phantom from behind. When Dani Phantom said, "Do something," because he was having so much trouble and he was struggling against Vlad Plasmius. Little did he know that Dani was working with Vlad Plasmius, and she blasted him back down from behind. That's that Phantasmal Energy Wave I wanted to give her in the episode from Kindred Spirits. So you see that long blast that she shot from her hands? That's going to be the move that she'll be able to use and hit you full screen. Now, her next moves, I gave her a ghost flip kit, so Dani will be able to knock the enemy into the air and combo with a double flip kit. See how he's spinning around like that? She'll be able to flip in midair with that little ghost tail, little tail form, and just be able to hit you. This was also a move from the first game, but I don't think he really does that too much in this. I think he does, but he has something similar to it. Maybe they changed it up, but I forgot if it was in this. But it's something similar to what he did in the first game with that ghost flip kit that he does in the air. But she'll be able to hit you twice with it because it's going to be a double flip kit. A two-hit combo. Now, her next move, Going Ghost. I gave her a recovery move. So her recovery is going to be so much better than Dani Phantom's. Because guess what? She's going to be able to fly, forming a ghost tail, and then see how Dani Phantom has an ability to be invisible and become untouchable. I think it's his forward special when he's on the ground, and I think he can also do it in the air, if I'm not mistaken. He actually can. He can do it in the air when he goes invisible and goes in that ghost tail form. But with this, she's going to be able to fly from her ghost tail and becomes untouchable, and you'll be able to have manual control. So almost like being able to go ghost in that ghost tail form that they do from the show when they fly around, and Dani Phantom's move that he has in this game, being untouchable for like a split second or two. But now I did a mix of Jenny Wakeman with it, so you can have full manual control and be able to fly where you want to fly. And if you have enough time, you could probably be able to get to the other side of the platform with her Going Ghost recovery move. Now the final move is her ultimate attack or her super. I wanted this to make the most sense because they don't have something that's similar to this. For Dani Phantom, he uses the fencing thermos in his ultimate attack. See ya. When he takes you in, he sucks you into the fencing thermos, and then he shoots you right out of it. I don't want to do something like that. This is going to be so much better than what Dani Phantom has for his ultimate attack. And I call this Clones of Dani. Almost made a different typo in here. Clones of Dani, where she will be able to duplicate herself and create clones of herself to charge up one giant blast of ghost energy in unison. Anybody remember Mega Man's Final Smash for Super Smash Bros? Well, all those different versions of Mega Man Walnut, Mega Man from Star Force, and Mega Man X, all those different versions of Mega Man were all in unison for a final blast. I wanted to do something similar to that, but it's not going to be different versions of it. It'll be clones of Dani, since she's a clone herself, just all popping up on the screen, charging up a huge giant burst of ghost energy in unison to fire onto the opponent, and it can hit more than one person. So it's gonna work something similar to how they did that with Mega Man. So that's what I was thinking about. I think that'll make the most sense for her because she's a clone character of Dani, and I wanted to make it better than he is. Instead of just, well, I was just have her use the fencing thermos, but have a different variation of the fencing thermos. I wanted to really put more into it, just giving it more spice and making it much more cooler than what he does with defense and thermos with his ultimate attack. So they're all going to pop up on the screen in unison to be able to charge up for a nice little ghost energy blast, things like that. And I think it'll be so much better. And I think that'll be something that could fit her character, considering the fact that, you know, just from her limited appearance. But that's everything that I could catch up, you know, come up with as far as this request for this character, her story, and so much more. I feel like they have the potential to really add more characters from his show. I thought initially when I first heard about this game, I thought Vlad Plasner is going to be playable, but he's not. He's only exclusive to the story. And they definitely deserve to get more stages. This, look, you see all that room? Got Reptile Ruins, City Aquarium, and you got Tremors and Joyride. Look at all that extra space. They can do so much more stages than what we have in this game. We got more stages in the first game than we do in this game. So I think there's so much more that they can do as far as this to have her get included. Some of these characters, the next characters that's coming out after the conclusion of this pass, if they go that route, they need to come out with more stages. So I think we could definitely get like a remastered version of Goes On that can make a return from the first game, all new and improved. We've seen Jellyfish Fields, see how it is different. It's two different variations. Not every stage has a stage variation, but we got all this stuff that needs to get, that can be improved. There's more that can be included in the game. But I think she's really going to be a force to be reckoned with. I definitely think she's going to be better. I wanted to make her better than Dani Phantom on purpose. Because she's limited, and with her limited existence, she's just as good and just as strong as Dani Phantom, but she wasn't as experienced as Dani Phantom because she didn't have that time that he did to be able to control her powers. But when she gets stabilized in her second appearance, she had better control of her abilities. And you guys will be able to see that when you check out the destabilized episode. But just again, she was only in 2 different episodes throughout the entire series. So this was a challenge for this request. And then considering the fact that she was a clone and basically is a clone of Dani Phantom, what she can do, what he can do, she can do. But I wanted to also give her a little bit more firepower, because it's some things that we don't ever find out, knowing if she end up learning some new techniques for her ghost powers. And then I think, just again, I mentioned earlier, she had a cameo appearance, but there was nothing else. There was nothing else. And then ever since the show got shut down and got canceled, we never found out anything else about this character. But she was such a great character. The only thing that they left off of, she just ended up going off on her own solo to become her own hero, a superhero of her own with ghost powers, and protect others from those ghosts. Her own ghost fighting superhero to protect others from those ghosts. But there was no other appearance for her. I wish she did have more appearances, but that's why I think she's such a great character that can get a spot on here. Even if she is a clone, she could definitely be able to do some more different things that Dani Phantom doesn't do for his moveset. But let me know what y'all think for this character. Hopefully we'll be able to get some more characters and more, so a new patch, and maybe some more plans of what they want to do for the game. They could definitely beef it up and add more. These characters definitely need more stages, and they can continue to add more to make the game even better, to keep people playing the game.